The gunshot that killed her husband echoed through the canyon long after Marcus Whitmore's body hit the dusty ground. And as Emma knelt beside him in the merciless Arizona sun of 1881, she knew her world had just shattered into 1,000 irreparable pieces. Blood pooled beneath Marcus's head, soaking into the parched earth near their overturned wagon. The bandits had taken everything, their horses, their supplies, the small amount of money they had saved to start their ranch in Prescott. Emma's hands trembled as she closed her husband's eyes, her wedding ring catching the harsh sunlight. They had been married only 8 months, and now she was alone in the wilderness, miles from the nearest town, with nothing but the clothes on her back and a grief so overwhelming it threatened to suffocate her. She sat beside Marcus's body for hours, unable to move, unable to think beyond the horrible reality that he was gone. The desert stretched endlessly in all directions, a wasteland of red rock and scrub brush beneath a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Eventually, the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, and Emma knew she had to do something. She could not stay here. The coyotes would come at night, and she had no weapon, no shelter, no water. With trembling hands and tears streaming down her dust-covered face, Emma began the grim task of burying her husband. The ground was hard and unforgiving, and all she had was a piece of broken wood from the wagon. She dug until her hands bled, until the blisters burst and reformed, until she had created a shallow grave that would have to suffice. She wrapped Marcus in his coat, whispered a prayer over his body, and covered him with rocks and earth. By the time she finished, darkness had fallen completely, and Emma was alone under a canopy of stars so bright and numerous they seemed almost mocking in their beauty. She huddled against the wrecked wagon, exhausted, dehydrated, and numb with shock. Sleep came in fits and starts, interrupted by the howls of distant coyotes and the replay of gunshots in her mind. Dawn broke with the same merciless heat as the day before. Emma's throat was parched, her lips cracked and bleeding. She knew she had to find water or she would die here beside her husband's grave. She began walking east, toward where she thought the nearest settlement might be. The landscape blurred in the heat, and several times she stumbled and fell, her strength fading with each passing hour. It was mid-afternoon when she finally collapsed. The sun beat down on her prone form and Emma closed her eyes, ready to surrender to the inevitable. But then she heard the sound of hoofbeats and a shadow fell across her face. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The voice was deep and urgent, edged with concern. Emma forced her eyes open and saw a man dismounting from a large bay horse. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that curled slightly at his collar and eyes the color of storm clouds. He wore the practical clothes of a working cowboy, worn denim pants, a faded blue shirt, a leather vest, and a wide-brimmed hat that he quickly removed as he knelt beside her. "Water," Emma managed to croak. The cowboy reached for his canteen and carefully lifted her head, bringing the opening to her lips. "Slow now," he cautioned. "Just small sips." The water was the most wonderful thing Emma had ever tasted. After a few swallows, the cowboy pulled the canteen away despite her protest. "Too much at once will make you sick," he explained gently. "Let that settle, then you can have more." He studied her face with genuine concern, taking in her sunburned skin, her bloodied hands, and her torn dress. "What happened to you? Where did you come from?" Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "Bandits, they killed my husband, took everything. 2 days ago, maybe 3, I do not know any more." The cowboy's jaw tightened, anger flashing in his gray eyes. "I am so sorry, ma'am. Can you ride? My ranch is about 5 miles from here. You need proper care, food, and rest." Emma nodded weakly, and the cowboy, who still had not introduced himself, carefully lifted her in his arms as though she weighed nothing at all. He settled her on his horse, then swung up behind her, one strong arm wrapped around her waist to keep her secure. Emma leaned back against his solid chest, too exhausted to protest the intimacy, too grateful to be alive to care about propriety. "I'm Cole Brennan," he said as they began to ride. I have a ranch not far from here. My sister lives with me. She will help get you cleaned up and fed." "Emma," she replied. "Emma Whitmore." "Well, Mrs. Whitmore, you are safe now, I promise you that." The ride to the Brennan ranch passed in a haze. Emma drifted in and out of consciousness, vaguely aware of Cole's steady presence behind her, his arm holding her secure, his voice occasionally murmuring words of reassurance. When they finally arrived, the sun was beginning to set again, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The ranch was modest but well-maintained, a sturdy house built of adobe and wood, a barn, a corral with several horses and various outbuildings. As soon as they stopped, a young woman emerged from the house, wiping her hands on her apron. "Cole, where have you been?" "I was starting to worry, and who?" She stopped mid-sentence as she saw Emma's condition. "Sarah, this is Mrs. Whitmore. She was attacked by bandits. Her husband was killed. She needs help." Cole dismounted and carefully lifted Emma down. Sarah Brennan was perhaps 20 years old, with the same dark hair as her brother and warm brown eyes full of compassion. She immediately took charge, guiding Emma into the house and into a bedroom while calling out instructions to Cole about heating water and finding clean clothes. Over the next hour, Sarah helped Emma bathe, tended to her wounded hands with careful efficiency, applied salve to her sunburned face, and dressed her in a simple cotton nightgown. Emma submitted to all of it in silence, still too numb from shock and grief to fully process what was happening. Finally, Sarah brought her a bowl of beef stew and fresh bread, sitting beside the bed while Emma slowly ate. "You do not have to talk about it if you do not want to," Sarah said gently. "But if you need to, I am here to listen." Emma set down the spoon, her appetite suddenly gone. "We were going to Prescott, Marcus and I. We were going to buy land and start a ranch. We had been saving for 2 years, working in Texas. We thought we had enough. We thought we were being careful, traveling in daylight, staying on the main roads, but they came out of nowhere. 4 men. They wanted our money. Marcus tried to protect me and they shot him, just shot him like he was nothing." Tears streamed down Emma's face and Sarah reached out to take her hand. "I am so sorry, I cannot imagine how much you are hurting right now." "I have nothing," Emma whispered. "No money, no family, nowhere to go. Marcus was all I had. We were orphans who found each other, who dreamed of building something together. And now he is gone and I am alone and I do not even know how to begin to move forward." Sarah squeezed her hand. "You are not alone. You will stay here with us until you figure out what you want to do. Cole and I, we understand what it is like to lose family. Our parents died 5 years ago in a fire. We only had each other. We will help you, Emma, I promise." Emma wanted to protest, to say she could not impose, but exhaustion overwhelmed her. She fell asleep with Sarah still sitting beside her, holding her hand like a sister. The next morning, Emma woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of coffee and bacon. For a brief, beautiful moment, she forgot where she was and what had happened. Then reality crashed back over her and she curled into herself, pressing her face into the pillow to muffle her sobs. Eventually, she forced herself to get up. Sarah had left clean clothes folded on a chair, a simple brown skirt and white blouse that were slightly too big but serviceable. Emma dressed slowly, her body aching from her ordeal, and made her way to the kitchen. Cole and Sarah were sitting at the table, talking in low voices. They looked up when Emma entered, and Cole immediately stood, pulling out a chair for her. "Good morning, Mrs. Whitmore. Did you sleep all right?" Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Sarah poured her coffee and fixed her a plate of food, chattering pleasantly about the weather and the ranch, clearly trying to provide some normalcy. Cole ate in silence, but Emma could feel his eyes on her occasionally, assessing, concerned. After breakfast, Sarah suggested Emma rest more, but Emma shook her head. "I cannot just lie in bed. I will go mad if I have nothing to do. Please let me help with something, anything." Sarah and Cole exchanged glances. "All right," Sarah agreed. "You can help me with the garden and the chickens." Nothing too strenuous. The days fell into a pattern. Emma helped Sarah with household chores, grateful for the distraction and the company. Sarah was kind and patient, never pushing Emma to talk but always available when she needed to. Cole was often out working the ranch, mending fences, training horses, managing the small herd of cattle, but at meals, he was present and quietly attentive. Emma found herself noticing things about Cole Brennan, the way he always removed his hat indoors, the gentleness with which he handled the horses, the protective way he looked at his sister, the quiet strength in his hands when he worked. He was perhaps 30 years old, unmarried, dedicated to his ranch and his family. He spoke little but listened well, and when he did speak, his words were thoughtful and genuine. 2 weeks after Emma arrived at the ranch, she was hanging laundry on the line behind the house when Cole approached, leading a young mare. "Mrs. Whitmore, do you know how to ride?" Emma nodded. "I used to before Marcus and I started traveling by wagon. I was thinking you might like to ride out with me this afternoon, get away from the house for a bit. The desert is beautiful this time of year if you know where to look." Emma hesitated, then nodded. "I would like that, thank you." Cole saddled the mare for her, adjusting the stirrups to fit her height. Then they rode out together, heading toward the distant mountains that rose like sentinels against the blue sky. Cole led them to a canyon where a small stream cut through the rock, creating a ribbon of green in the red landscape. Cottonwood trees provided shade, and wildflowers bloomed along the water's edge. They dismounted, and Cole produced a canteen and some biscuits from his saddlebag. They sat beside the stream, listening to the water burble over the stones and watching birds flit through the trees. "This is my favorite place," Cole said after a long silence. "When things get too heavy, when the work gets too hard, I come here. It reminds me that there is still beauty in the world, even when everything else feels broken." Emma looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the pain in his eyes that matched her own. "You still miss them, your parents?" "Every day," Cole admitted. "It gets easier with time, but it never goes away completely. You learn to carry it, to make room for it alongside everything else. The grief becomes part of you, but it does not have to define you." "I do not know how to move forward," Emma confessed. "I feel stuck, like I am suspended between the life I had and whatever comes next. Marcus and we planned everything together. I do not know how to plan for just myself." Cole turned to face her fully. "You do not have to figure it all out right now. You do not have to rush yourself through grief. It takes as long as it takes. But I cannot stay with you and Sarah forever. You have already been too generous. I need to find work, find a place to live, find a way to support myself. But I have no money, no skills beyond basic housework. I do not know what I can possibly do." "You have time to figure that out," Cole said firmly. "Sarah and I are not going to turn you out. You are welcome to stay as long as you need." Over the following weeks, Emma began to heal slowly and painfully. The grief was still overwhelming at times, hitting her in unexpected waves that left her breathless and shaking. But gradually, she began to notice other things too: the warmth of the sun on her face, the satisfaction of a well-tended garden, the sound of Sarah's laughter, the quiet comfort of Cole's presence. She and Cole began riding out together regularly. Sometimes they talked, sharing stories about their pasts, their dreams, their losses. Other times they simply rode in companionable silence, letting the vast landscape speak for itself. Emma found herself looking forward to these excursions, to the way Cole seemed to understand her moods without her having to explain, to the way he made her feel safe and valued. One evening, about 6 weeks after Emma's arrival, Sarah announced at dinner that she would be traveling to Tucson the next day to visit a friend who was getting married. She would be gone for nearly 2 weeks. "Will you be all right here alone with Cole?" Sarah asked Emma, a hint of concern in her voice. "I do not want you to feel uncomfortable." Emma glanced at Cole, who was studiously focusing on his plate. "I will be fine," she assured Sarah. "Cole has been nothing but respectful." Still, after Sarah left the next morning, there was an awkwardness between Emma and Cole that had not been there before. They were alone together in a way they had not been, and the impropriety of the situation was not lost on either of them. They went about their separate tasks during the day, but at meals the silence felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. On the third evening of Sarah's absence, a sudden storm rolled in from the mountains. Rain pounded the roof and thunder shook the windows. Emma was washing dishes when lightning flashed so close and bright it made her gasp and drop the plate she was holding. It shattered on the floor and she stood frozen, staring at the broken pieces. Cole appeared in the doorway. "Are you all right?" "I am sorry," Emma said, her voice shaking. "I will clean it up." But as she knelt to gather the shards, her hands began to tremble uncontrollably. All the emotions she had been holding back came crashing over her, the fear, the loss, the uncertainty, the loneliness. She began to cry, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Cole was beside her in an instant, carefully moving the broken pottery aside and pulling her to her feet. Without a word, he wrapped his arms around her, holding her close as she fell apart. Emma clung to him, her face pressed against his chest, sobbing out all the pain she had been carrying. "I have got you," Cole murmured, his hand gently stroking her hair. "Let it out, I have got you." They stood like that for a long time until Emma's tears finally subsided into hiccups and shudders. She became aware of how tightly she was holding onto Cole, of the solid warmth of his body, of the steady beat of his heart beneath her ear. She should pull away, she knew. This was improper, but she could not make herself let go. "I am sorry," she whispered against his shirt. "I am sorry for falling apart like that." Cole's arms tightened around her. "You do not have to apologize, not ever, not for grief." Emma finally pulled back enough to look up at him. His gray eyes were dark with emotion, his face closer than she had realized. They stood frozen for a moment and Emma felt her breath catch. Then Cole gently released her, taking a step back. "I should check on the horses," he said, his voice rough. "The storm probably has them spooked." He grabbed his coat and hat and disappeared into the rain, leaving Emma standing alone in the kitchen, her heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with the storm. That night, Emma lay awake for hours, thinking about the feeling of being in Cole's arms, about the look in his eyes before he pulled away. She felt guilty for even having such thoughts when Marcus had been dead less than 2 months. But she also felt something else, a stirring of hope, of possibility, of a future she had not imagined. The next morning, Cole was quiet and distant at breakfast. He left the house early and did not return until well after dark. Emma spent the day in turmoil, wondering if she had done something wrong, if he was avoiding her, if she had imagined the connection between them. This pattern continued for several days. Cole was polite but remote, speaking only when necessary, finding excuses to be away from the house. Emma felt the loss of his companionship acutely, and her confusion turned to frustration. Finally, she confronted him. It was evening, and Cole had just returned from checking the fence lines. Emma was waiting for him on the porch. "Why are you avoiding me?" she asked directly. Cole stopped, his hand on the railing. "I am not avoiding you." "Yes, you are. Ever since the night of the storm, you have barely spoken to me. If I have done something to offend you, please tell me." Cole removed his hat and ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Emma had come to recognize as a sign of his frustration. "You have not offended me, Emma. The problem is not you." "Then what is it?" He was silent for a long moment, his jaw working. Then he said quietly, "The problem is that I am falling in love with you and I have no right to feel that way." Emma's heart stuttered. "What?" Cole turned to face her fully, his expression raw and vulnerable. "I know it is too soon. I know you are still grieving your husband. I know I should be able to keep my feelings in check. But when I held you that night, when you were crying in my arms, I realized that I want to hold you like that every day for the rest of my life. I want to protect you, to make you smile, to help you heal. And I know I have no right to want those things, so I have been trying to stay away, trying to give you space, trying to be better than my own selfish heart." Emma stood very still, processing his words. "You love me." "I do," Cole said simply. "And I am sorry if that makes things difficult." Sarah will be back in a few days. If you want to leave, if you want to go somewhere else, I will help you. I will give you money, find you a safe place to stay. I will not make you uncomfortable in your own home." "This is not my home," Emma said softly. "This is your home. You and Sarah have been nothing but kind to me, and I have taken advantage of that kindness." "You have not taken advantage of anything," Cole said firmly. "Emma, you were dying in the desert. You had nowhere else to go. I could not have left you there any more than I could have stopped breathing." Emma wrapped her arms around herself. "I do not know what to feel, Cole. When you held me that night, I felt something I have not felt since Marcus died. I felt safe. I felt cared for. I felt like maybe I could survive this after all. And that terrifies me because it feels like a betrayal of Marcus's memory. He has been dead less than 3 months, and I am already thinking about another man. What does that say about me?" Cole descended the porch steps until he was standing directly in front of her. "It says you are human. It says you are alive and you want to stay that way. Emma, I did not know your husband, but from what you have told me about him, he sounds like a good man who loved you very much. Do you think he would want you to spend the rest of your life alone, punishing yourself for surviving when he did not?" "I do not know," Emma whispered. "I do not know anything anymore." "Then do not decide anything right now," Cole said gently. "Just know that I am here. I am not going anywhere. Whether you can ever return my feelings or not, you have a home here for as long as you want it." Sarah returned from Tucson full of stories about the wedding and gossip about mutual friends. She seemed to sense that something had shifted between Cole and Emma in her absence, but she said nothing, merely watching them with thoughtful eyes. Emma spent the next several weeks in deep contemplation. She thought about Marcus, about their dreams together, about the life they had planned. She grieved for what might have been, but she also thought about Cole, about his quiet strength, his gentle kindness, his patient understanding. She thought about the way her heart lifted when he smiled, the way she felt complete when they rode out together, the way his presence had become essential to her sense of safety and well-being. Autumn arrived, bringing cooler temperatures and golden light. Emma had been at the Brennan Ranch for nearly 4 months. One afternoon, she and Cole were riding back from the canyon when Cole's horse suddenly reared, spooked by a rattlesnake. Cole was thrown from the saddle, landing hard on the rocky ground. Emma was off her horse in seconds, running to his side. "Cole, are you hurt?" Cole groaned and sat up slowly, checking himself for injuries. "I think I am all right, just bruised my pride more than anything." But when he tried to stand, he gasped in pain and nearly fell. Emma caught him, supporting his weight. "Your ankle, you have hurt your ankle." "It is fine," Cole insisted, but when he tried to put weight on it, he hissed in pain. "It is not fine," Emma said firmly. "You need to get back on your horse so I can get you home." With considerable difficulty and more than a little pain, Cole managed to remount his horse with Emma's help. She led both horses back to the ranch, her heart pounding with worry. By the time they arrived, Cole's face was pale and drawn with pain. Sarah helped Emma get Cole into the house and onto his bed. They removed his boot carefully, revealing an ankle that was already swelling and turning purple. Sarah felt it gently, making Cole wince. "I do not think it is broken," she announced, "but it is definitely a bad sprain." "You are going to be off your feet for at least a week, Cole," Cole cursed under his breath. "I cannot afford to be laid up. There is too much work to do." "The work will get done," Emma said firmly. "Sarah and I will handle what we can and the rest will wait. You need to heal." Over the next week, Emma took over many of Cole's duties. She fed and watered the horses, mucked out the stalls, checked the fence lines, and even helped Sarah with some of the heavier ranch work. It was exhausting labor, and Emma fell into bed each night with aching muscles and blistered hands. But it also felt good, purposeful, like she was finally paying back some of the debt she owed the Brennans. Cole was a terrible patient, restless and frustrated by his enforced idleness. Emma brought him his meals and sat with him in the evenings, reading to him from the small collection of books Sarah owned or playing cards to pass the time. During these quiet hours together, their conversations grew deeper, more intimate. They talked about their fears and hopes, their regrets and dreams. One evening, about a week after Cole's injury, Emma was sitting in the chair beside his bed, mending one of his shirts. Cole was propped up against the pillows, watching her work. "Emma," he said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever think about staying, not just for now, but permanently, making this your home?" Emma's needle paused mid-stitch. "I think about it," she admitted. "But I also think about what people would say. A widow living with an unmarried man and his sister, it would cause talk." "I do not care what people say," Cole said fiercely. "Let them talk." "But I do care," Emma said. "I care what it would do to your reputation, to Sarah's reputation. You have both sacrificed so much for me already. I will not repay that kindness by bringing scandal to your doorstep." Cole was silent for a moment, then he said, "What if you were not a widow living with an unmarried man? What if you were my wife?" Emma's head snapped up, her heart suddenly racing. "What?" Cole pushed himself into a more upright position, wincing as his injured ankle protested. "Marry me, Emma. I know it is fast. I know you might not love me the way I love you, but I think we could be happy together. I think we could build a good life. And you would have security, a home, a place where you belong." Emma set down her mending, her hands shaking. "Cole, you do not have to marry me out of obligation or pity." "It is not obligation or pity," Cole said urgently. "It is love. I love you, Emma. I love your strength, your resilience, your kindness. I love the way you laugh at Sarah's stories, and the way you gentle the horses, and the way you look at sunset. I love that you stayed up all night with me when I had a fever last week, even though you were exhausted. I love everything about you, and I want to spend the rest of my life loving you if you will let me." Tears filled Emma's eyes. "I am so scared, Cole. I lost Marcus, and it nearly destroyed me. I do not know if I can survive losing someone I love again." Cole reached out and took her hand. "None of us know what the future holds. All we can do is choose to love anyway, to take the risk, to live fully even though we know it will end someday. Emma, I am offering you everything I have, my home, my heart, my name, my future. I know it is not much compared to what you have lost, but it is yours if you want it." Emma thought about Marcus, about the love they had shared. She knew, deep in her soul, that he would want her to be happy, to find love again, to live the full life they had dreamed of together even if he could not be there to share it. And she thought about Cole, about the man who had saved her life, who had given her a home, who had loved her patiently and without expectation of return. "I have nothing to offer you," she whispered, the words torn from some deep place inside her. "No money, no land, no family connections. I am a penniless widow with nothing but the clothes you and Sarah have given me." Cole pulled her closer, his gray eyes intense and full of emotion. "You are offering me everything," he said. "You are offering me yourself, and that is all I have ever wanted." Emma began to cry, but this time the tears were different, tears of relief, of hope, of a future she had not dared to imagine. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you." Cole pulled her into his arms, holding her tight despite the awkward angle and his injured ankle. "Thank you," he murmured against her hair. "Thank you for taking a chance on me." Sarah was overjoyed when they told her the news the next morning. She hugged Emma fiercely, then playfully scolded Cole for proposing while injured and unable to properly court his bride. "You could have at least waited until you could get down on one knee," she teased. "I was afraid if I waited, she might come to her senses and realize she could do better," Cole replied, grinning. They decided to have a simple wedding as soon as Cole's ankle healed enough for him to stand through the ceremony. Sarah threw herself into preparations with enthusiasm, altering one of her own dresses to fit Emma and planning a small celebration. During the week before the wedding, Emma and Cole spent as much time together as propriety allowed, always with Sarah as chaperone. They talked about their plans for the future, about expanding the ranch, about the life they would build together. Cole was patient and gentle, never pushing Emma beyond her comfort level, always mindful of her grief and her healing process. The night before the wedding, Sarah insisted on the tradition of the bride and groom sleeping apart. Emma lay awake in her room, her heart full of anticipation and nerves. She thought about Marcus one last time, saying a silent goodbye to the life they had planned together. Then she turned her thoughts to tomorrow, to Cole, to the new beginning waiting for her. The wedding took place on a crisp November morning in 1881. The traveling preacher who passed through the area every few months performed the ceremony in the Brennans' modest parlor. Besides Sarah, the only witnesses were two neighboring ranchers, the Morrison brothers, who had ridden over to stand up for Cole. Emma wore Sarah's altered dress, a simple gown of pale blue cotton. She had no flowers, no veil, no family to give her away. But when Cole took her hand and spoke his vows, his voice strong and sure, Emma felt more loved and cherished than she had thought possible. I, Cole Alexander Brennan, take you, Emma Rose Whitmore, to be my wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, protect you, and stand beside you through whatever joys and sorrows life brings us. I give you my heart, my home, and my name from this day forward for all the days of my life. Emma's voice shook slightly as she repeated her own vows. I, Emma Rose Whitmore, take you, Cole Alexander Brennan, to be my wedded husband. I promise to love you, honor you, support you, and walk beside you through all that comes. I give you my heart, my loyalty, and my love from this day forward for all the days of my life. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Cole kissed Emma gently, sweetly, a kiss full of promise and hope. Sarah wiped away happy tears, and the Morrison brothers clapped Cole on the back, offering hearty congratulations. They celebrated with a simple meal that Sarah had prepared: roasted chicken, potatoes, fresh bread, and an apple pie. The Morrison brothers entertained them with stories and jokes, and even Emma found herself laughing, the sound surprising and wonderful after so many months of sorrow. As evening fell, the neighbors departed, and Sarah diplomatically announced she was retiring early. She hugged Emma one more time. I am so happy for you both, she whispered. You deserve this happiness. Alone at last, Cole and Emma stood in the parlor, suddenly shy with each other despite everything they had shared over the past months. Cole reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind Emma's ear. Are you tired? He asked softly. If you need more time, I understand. There is no rush. Emma shook her head. I am not tired. I am nervous, but not tired. Cole took both her hands in his. We will take this at whatever pace you need. I meant what I said in my vows, Emma. I will stand beside you through everything. That includes this. Emma looked into his eyes and saw only love, patience, and understanding. She thought about how this man had saved her life, how he had given her a home and hope and healing. She thought about how she had grown to love him, slowly at first and then all at once. And she knew that this was right, that she was exactly where she was meant to be. She stood on her toes and kissed him, putting all her feelings into that kiss, her gratitude, her hope, her growing love. Cole responded carefully at first, then with increasing passion as Emma pressed closer. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Emma, Cole said, his voice rough. Are you sure? I am sure, Emma replied. Take me to bed, husband. Cole lifted her in his arms, mindful of his still healing ankle, and carried her to the bedroom they would now share. He set her down gently beside the bed, then lit a lamp, turning the wick low so the room was filled with soft golden light. What followed was tender and careful, adjoining as much of hearts and souls as bodies. Cole was patient and attentive, guiding Emma with gentle hands and whispered reassurances. There was some awkwardness, as there always is between new lovers learning each other. But there was also deep sweetness, a sense of rightness, of two people finding home in each other. Afterwards, they lay tangled together in the sheets, Emma's head on Cole's chest, his arms wrapped securely around her. For the first time since Marcus's death, Emma felt completely at peace. The grief was still there, she knew it would always be a part of her, but it no longer consumed her. She had found a way forward, a reason to keep living, a love worth embracing despite the risks. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. I did not think I could love again, but I do. I love you, Cole. She felt Cole's arms tighten around her. I love you too, he murmured. Thank you for choosing me, for taking this chance, for letting yourself heal enough to love again. I promise I will spend every day trying to be worthy of that gift. Emma tilted her head up to kiss him. You are already worthy. You have been worthy from the moment you found me in the desert and chose to save me. They made love again, slower this time, learning each other's bodies with careful exploration and increasing confidence. When they finally fell asleep, it was in each other's arms, two souls finding shelter from the harsh world in their shared warmth. The weeks that followed were a time of adjustment and deep contentment. Emma settled into her new role as Cole's wife, working alongside him on the ranch, learning the rhythms of their shared life. Sarah continued to live with them, and the three of them became a true family, supporting and caring for each other. Winter came, bringing cold winds and occasional snow to the high desert. Emma and Cole spent the long evenings by the fire, talking and reading and simply being together. They made love often, growing ever more comfortable and adventurous with each other, their physical connection deepening their emotional bond. Sarah teased them gently about being newlyweds, but Emma could see the happiness in her sister-in-law's eyes. Sarah had worried about Cole being alone, about him working himself to death on the ranch with no one to share his life. Now she could see that he was truly happy, and that joy reflected back on all of them. Christmas of 1881 was the first real holiday Emma had celebrated since Marcus's death. Sarah insisted on decorating the house with pine branches and making special meals. Cole surprised Emma with a gift, a beautiful saddle for the mare she rode, hand-tooled leather with her initials worked into the design. I ordered it months ago, Cole admitted, looking slightly embarrassed. Before I even proposed, I just wanted you to have something of your own, something that said you belonged here. Emma threw her arms around him, overwhelmed by his thoughtfulness. It is beautiful, thank you. She had a gift for him too, though it had required considerable ingenuity given her lack of funds. She had taken one of his old shirts, the fabric worn soft from years of use, and carefully cut and stitched it into a quilt square. Around it, she had added pieces from other fabric scraps Sarah had saved, creating a pattern. It was only the beginning of a quilt, just a few squares stitched together, but it represented hours of work in the evenings after Cole had fallen asleep. It is not finished yet, Emma explained as Cole unfolded it, his expression unreadable. But I thought maybe over time I could add to it. Each square could represent something important: our wedding, our first year together, whatever comes next, a record of our life together. Cole traced the stitching with his fingers, and when he looked up at Emma, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. It is perfect, he said hoarsely, the most perfect gift anyone has ever given me. That night, as they lay in bed, Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over her. 6 months ago, she had been alone in the desert, ready to die. Now she had a husband who loved her, a sister who had welcomed her, a home where she belonged. Life was far from perfect. They still struggled with money, with harsh weather, with the endless demands of ranch work. But they had each other, and that was enough. Spring arrived, painting the desert in unexpected colors. Wildflowers bloomed across the landscape, and the days grew longer and warmer. Emma discovered she was pregnant in late March, a discovery that filled her with joy and terror in equal measure. She told Cole one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "I am going to have a baby," she said simply. Cole went very still. Then he turned to her, his face transformed by wonder and delight. "A baby, are you sure?" Emma nodded. "I am sure. Sarah helped me confirm it. The baby should come sometime in early November." Cole pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "A baby," he repeated as if he could not quite believe it. "Our baby, Emma, this is incredible." But Emma was crying and Cole pulled back, concerned. "What is wrong? Are you not happy about this?" "I am happy," Emma assured him through her tears, "but I am also terrified. What if something goes wrong? What if I lose the baby? What if I lose you? I could not survive losing someone else I love, Cole. I could not." Cole cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Nothing is going to happen to me," he said firmly. "And nothing is going to happen to you or the baby. We are going to be careful and cautious, and Sarah knows midwifery from our mother. We are going to get through this together, and in November we are going to welcome our child into this world. Do you hear me?" Emma nodded, wanting desperately to believe him. "I hear you." The pregnancy was difficult. Emma suffered from terrible sickness in the early months, unable to keep down much food. Sarah tended to her with endless patience, trying various remedies until they found things that helped. Cole was anxious and overprotective, trying to prevent Emma from doing any strenuous work. "I am not fragile," Emma protested when Cole tried to stop her from carrying a basket of laundry. "Women have been having babies since the beginning of time. I can manage a basket of clothes." "I know you can," Cole replied, "but I would feel better if you would let me help. Please, Emma, let me take care of you." Emma softened at the genuine worry in his eyes. She knew his protectiveness came from love, from the same fear she carried, that this happiness could be snatched away at any moment. So she let him carry the laundry, let him help her with tasks she could easily have managed herself, understanding that he needed to feel like he was keeping her safe. As her belly grew round with their child, Emma found herself marveling at the miracle of it all. A year ago, she had been married to Marcus, dreaming of a different future. 6 months ago, she had wanted to die in the desert. Now she was carrying Cole's baby, building a life she had never imagined. The twists and turns of fate seemed almost impossible to comprehend. Summer was brutally hot, and Emma struggled with the heat and her expanding body. She spent much of her time in the shade, sewing baby clothes and preparing for the arrival of their child. Cole had built a cradle during the long winter evenings, the wood sanded smooth and polished to a soft shine. Sarah had made blankets and gowns from soft cotton fabric. One afternoon in August, when Emma was about 6 months along, a stranger rode up to the ranch. He was a rough-looking man, unshaven and dusty from travel, and Emma felt a chill of recognition even before he spoke. "I am looking for a woman named Emma Whitmore," he announced. "I heard she might be living around these parts." Cole had emerged from the barn at the sound of hoofbeats, and he immediately positioned himself between the stranger and Emma. "Who is asking?" The man spat tobacco juice into the dirt. "Name is Jake Rollins. I got business with Mrs. Whitmore." Emma stepped forward despite Cole's protective stance. "I am Emma Whitmore. What business do you have with me?" Jake Rollins studied her, his eyes lingering on her pregnant belly. "You are the woman whose husband got killed by bandits last year, Marcus Whitmore." Emma's hands instinctively went to her stomach, protecting the child within. "Yes, what about it?" "Well, ma'am, I thought you might like to know that those bandits what killed your husband, they have been caught. Sheriff in Tucson has them in custody, waiting for trial. They are asking for witnesses, people who can identify them and testify to their crimes." Emma felt the blood drain from her face. Cole's arm came around her shoulders, steadying her. "She does not need to testify," he said firmly. "She has been through enough," but Emma shook her head. "No. If they are the men who killed Marcus, I need to see justice done. I need to testify." Rollins nodded. "Trial is set for the end of the month in Tucson. Sheriff said he would appreciate if you could make it." After Rollins left, Cole and Emma argued. Cole insisted it was too dangerous for Emma to travel in her condition, that facing the men who had killed her first husband would be too traumatic. Emma insisted that she needed to do this, that Marcus deserved justice, that she could not let his killers go free. Finally, Sarah intervened. "Cole, she is right. Emma needs to do this for her own peace of mind, and she will not be alone. We will both go with her, keep her safe, make sure she is cared for." So at the end of August 1882, the three of them traveled to Tucson for the trial. The journey was uncomfortable for Emma, every jolt of the wagon sending aches through her back and legs. But Cole had outfitted the wagon with extra padding and blankets, doing everything he could to make her comfortable. Tucson was larger and busier than Emma remembered. They found a modest hotel and Cole secured 2 rooms, one for Emma and himself, another for Sarah. The trial was set to begin the following day. That night, Emma lay awake in the hotel bed, Cole's arm around her, feeling the baby move restlessly within her. She was afraid of what tomorrow would bring, afraid of seeing the men who had destroyed her first chance at happiness, afraid of reliving that terrible day. "I will be right there with you," Cole whispered in the darkness. "Every moment, you will not face this alone." The courtroom was hot and crowded when they arrived. Emma saw the 4 defendants sitting together, manacled and guarded. She recognized them instantly. The lean one with the scar across his cheek who had shot Marcus, the heavyset one who had grabbed the reins of their horses, the younger one who had rifled through their belongings, and the older one who had laughed as they rode away. The trial lasted 3 days. Emma testified on the second day, her voice shaking but clear as she recounted the events of that terrible afternoon. She identified each of the men and their roles in the attack. The defense attorney tried to rattle her, suggesting her memory might be faulty, that grief might have distorted her recollection. But Emma stood firm, her testimony unwavering. Cole sat in the front row throughout her testimony, his eyes never leaving her face, offering silent support. When Emma was finally excused from the witness stand, her legs were trembling so badly she could barely walk. Cole was there instantly, his arm around her waist, guiding her from the courtroom. Outside, Emma collapsed against him, shaking with reaction. "It is over," Cole murmured. "You did it. You testified, and now it is over." The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. The judge sentenced all 4 men to hang. Emma felt no joy at the news, only a weary satisfaction that justice had been served. Marcus's death had been avenged, and she could finally close that chapter of her life completely. The journey back to the ranch was quieter, more contemplative. Emma felt lighter somehow, as if testifying had lifted a weight she had not known she was carrying. She could move forward now without the shadow of unfinished business hanging over her. The final months of Emma's pregnancy passed in a blur of preparation and anticipation. As November approached, Cole became increasingly nervous, jumping at every sound, constantly checking on Emma. Sarah teased him mercilessly about it, but Emma found his anxiety endearing. The baby came on a cold November night, 3 days after Emma and Cole's first wedding anniversary. The labor was long and difficult, lasting nearly 20 hours. Cole paced the house like a caged animal, driven nearly mad by the sounds of Emma's pain. Sarah barred him from the bedroom, insisting that he would only make things worse with his anxiety. Finally, as dawn broke over the desert, the baby was born, a healthy boy with dark hair and strong lungs. Sarah cleaned him up, wrapped him in a soft blanket, and carried him out to where Cole was wearing a path in the floor. "Congratulations," she said, smiling broadly. "You have a son." Cole's hands shook as he took the baby, staring down at his son's tiny face with awe and wonder. "He is perfect," he breathed. "Absolutely perfect. Now go meet your wife," Sarah instructed. "She is asking for you." Emma was propped up in bed, exhausted but glowing. Her face lit up when Cole entered carrying their son. He sat carefully on the edge of the bed and placed the baby in Emma's arms. "Look what we made," Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Cole, he is beautiful." "He is," Cole agreed, his own voice thick with emotion, just like his mother. They named him Thomas Marcus Brennan, honoring Emma's first husband while giving their son his own identity. Cole held him for hours that first day, marveling at his son's tiny fingers, his perfect features, the way he fit so naturally in his father's arms. Sarah doted on her nephew, taking over the household duties so Emma could rest and bond with the baby. Cole was a devoted father from the start, getting up with Emma for nighttime feedings, changing diapers without complaint, walking the floor with Thomas when he was fussy. The first year of Thomas's life passed quickly, measured in milestones. His first smile, his first tooth, his first words, his first steps. The ranch prospered under Cole's management, and they were able to hire a hand to help with the heavier work, giving Cole more time to spend with his family. Emma watched her husband with their son and felt her heart swell with love. Cole was patient and playful, teaching Thomas about horses and cattle, carrying him on his shoulders around the ranch, telling him stories at bedtime. He was everything Marcus would have been and more, and Emma felt blessed beyond measure. When Thomas was 18 months old, Emma discovered she was pregnant again. This time, the news brought only joy and excitement. Cole was thrilled, and Thomas was old enough to sense the excitement even if he did not understand what it meant. Their daughter was born in September of 1884, an easier birth than Thomas's had been. They named her Catherine Sarah Brennan, after Sarah, who had become such an integral part of their family. Katie, as they called her, was a happy baby with her mother's auburn hair and her father's gray eyes. Sarah, who had lived with them throughout, met a neighboring rancher named Daniel Morrison, one of the brothers who had witnessed Emma and Cole's wedding. Their courtship was slow and careful, both being older and set in their ways. But they fell in love nonetheless, and in the spring of 1885 they married in the same parlor where Emma and Cole had wed. Sarah moved to the Morrison Ranch, which was only a few miles away, so they saw each other often. Emma missed having Sarah in the house every day, but she was happy for her sister-in-law, glad she had found the same kind of love Emma had found with Cole. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. The children grew, the ranch prospered, and Emma and Cole's love deepened with each passing year. They had their struggles, years when the drought made water scarce, times when prices for cattle dropped and money was tight, the inevitable challenges of raising children and managing a ranch. But they faced everything together, partners in every sense of the word. On quiet evenings, after the children were asleep, Emma and Cole would sit on the porch and watch the sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and crimson. Sometimes they talked, sharing their thoughts and dreams. Other times they simply sat in companionable silence, hands linked, content in each other's presence. 5 years after Katie was born, Emma gave birth to twin boys, James and Samuel. The house was chaotic with 4 young children, but it was also filled with laughter and love. Cole built an addition to the house, adding bedrooms to accommodate their growing family. Thomas grew into a responsible young man who loved the ranch as much as his father did. Katie was spirited and independent, spending as much time on horseback as her brothers. The twins were mischievous and inseparable, keeping Emma constantly on her toes. Emma occasionally thought about Marcus, about the life they had planned together. She no longer felt guilty about those thoughts. Marcus had been her first love, and he had shaped who she was. But Cole was her partner, her love, the father of her children, the man who had saved her in every way a person can be saved. She loved him with a depth and intensity that still sometimes took her breath away. One evening in the late spring of 1891, Emma and Cole celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary. The children were staying with Sarah and Daniel for the night, giving Emma and Cole rare time alone together. They rode out to the canyon where Cole had first brought Emma all those years ago, where he had told her about grief and healing and finding beauty in a broken world. The stream still burbled over the rocks, the cottonwoods still provided shade, the wildflowers still bloomed along the water's edge. They spread a blanket and unpacked the picnic dinner Emma had prepared. As the sun set and the stars began to appear, Cole pulled Emma close, wrapping his arms around her. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Marrying me, staying here, building this life?" Emma turned in his arms to face him, her hands framing his face. "Not for one single moment," she said firmly. "Cole, you saved my life, not just in the desert that day, but every day since. You gave me a reason to keep living when I wanted to die. You gave me love when I thought I would never love again. You gave me a family, a home, a purpose. How could I possibly regret any of that?" Cole kissed her, deep and passionate, a kiss that held 10 years of love and partnership. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "I love you," Cole said. "More now than the day I married you, and I loved you desperately even then. You are my whole world, Emma, you and the children. Everything I am, everything I have, it is all because of you." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "You gave me everything when I had nothing. You saw value in me when I could not see it in myself. I love you, Cole Brennan. I will love you until the day I die and beyond." They made love under the stars, their bodies moving together with the ease of long practice and deep familiarity. Afterwards, they lay tangled together on the blanket, talking about their children, their plans for the ranch, their dreams for the future. "Sometimes I think about that day in the desert," Emma said softly. "When I told you I had nothing to offer and you said I was offering you everything. I did not understand what you meant then. I thought I was just a burden, someone you felt obligated to help. But now I understand. You saw past the grief and the loss to the person I was underneath. You saw my strength, my resilience, my capacity to love again. You saw me, really saw me, when I could not see myself." Cole tightened his arms around her. "You were never a burden. From the moment I found you, I knew you were meant to be mine. It sounds foolish, maybe, but I looked at you lying there in the desert, dying but not quite dead, and something in my soul recognized you. I knew I would do anything to save you, to keep you, to make you happy." "You have made me happy," Emma assured him. "Happier than I ever imagined I could be. Our life is not easy and it is not perfect, but it is ours, and it is real, and it is everything I need." The years continued to pass, measured in seasons and harvests, in birthdays and holidays, in the countless small moments that make up a life. Thomas grew to manhood and took on more responsibility on the ranch, eventually marrying a sweet-natured girl from town named Mary. They built a house on the edge of the Brennan property, and soon Emma and Cole were grandparents to Thomas and Mary's children. Katie surprised everyone by becoming a schoolteacher, riding into town 3 days a week to teach at the small school that had been built to serve the growing community. She eventually married a lawyer who respected her independence and supported her work. The twins followed different paths. James stayed on the ranch, working alongside his father and brother, while Samuel went east to study veterinary medicine, returning to set up a practice that served all the ranchers in the territory. Emma and Cole grew older together, their hair turning gray, their faces lined with the years of sun and work and life. But their love never diminished. If anything, it grew stronger, tempered and refined by decades of partnership. On their 30th wedding anniversary, their children and grandchildren gathered at the ranch for a celebration. There were nearly 20 people crowded around the large table that had been moved outside to accommodate everyone. Emma looked around at the faces of her family, her children, their spouses, the grandchildren ranging from infants to teenagers, and felt overwhelming gratitude. Cole caught her eye from the other end of the table and smiled, that same smile that had first made her heart flutter all those years ago. Emma smiled back, and in that moment they did not need words. Everything they needed to say was in that look. "I love you, I choose you, I would do it all again." After dinner, when the younger grandchildren were running around chasing fireflies, and the older family members were sitting on the porch drinking coffee and talking, Cole took Emma's hand and led her away from the crowd. They walked to their spot on the porch, the same place they had sat on countless evenings throughout their marriage. 30 years, Cole mused. "Where did the time go? Into this," Emma replied, gesturing at the house full of family, the prosperous ranch, the life they had built together. "Every moment, every choice, every challenge and joy, it all went into creating this, and I would not change a single thing." Cole pulled her close, resting his chin on top of her head. "When I found you in that desert 31 years ago, dying and alone, I never imagined all of this. I just knew I had to save you. But you saved me too, Emma. I was just existing before you came into my life, going through the motions, working the ranch because it was what I knew how to do. You gave me purpose, gave me a reason to build something lasting, gave me a family and a legacy." Everything good in my life comes from you." Emma turned in his arms, standing on her toes to kiss him despite her aging body's protests. "We saved each other," she said. "That is what love does. It rescues us from loneliness, from despair, from the darkness. It gives us light to walk by, warmth to shelter in, hope to sustain us. You were my light, Cole, you still are." As the stars came out overhead, and the sounds of their family's laughter drifted through the evening air, Emma and Cole held each other close. Two souls who had found their way to each other through tragedy and loss, through courage and hope, through a love that had endured and grown stronger with each passing year. The years advanced, and Emma and Cole transitioned into the role of the elder generation. Thomas took over the day-to-day running of the ranch, though Cole still consulted on major decisions and helped with the work when his aging body allowed. Emma spent her days with her grandchildren, teaching them to cook and garden, telling them stories about the old days, passing on the wisdom she had gained through a life fully lived. In the summer of 1911, Cole fell ill with pneumonia. He was 75 years old, and despite Emma's devoted nursing and Samuel's medical expertise, it became clear that he would not recover. The family gathered, filling the house that had been the center of their lives for 3 decades. Emma rarely left Cole's side during those final days. She held his hand, refreshed his water, read to him from his favorite books, and simply sat with him in the comfortable silence of a long marriage. On a warm June evening, with Emma beside him and his children nearby, Cole squeezed Emma's hand weakly. "No regrets," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Best 30 years of my life." "Mine too," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "I love you, Cole Brennan. I will love you always. Until we meet again," Cole murmured, "and we will meet again, I promise." He closed his eyes then and slipped away peacefully, his hand still clasped in Emma's. The family mourned, but there was also a sense of peace. Cole had lived a full, rich life surrounded by people who loved him. He had built something lasting, and his legacy would continue through his children and grandchildren. Emma grieved deeply but did not fall apart as she had when Marcus died. She was older now, wiser, more resilient. She knew that grief was simply the price of love, and she would pay it gladly for the 30 years of joy she had shared with Cole. She continued to live on the ranch, surrounded by her family. Thomas and Mary insisted she stay in the main house, and Emma was grateful for their company and care. She spent her remaining years watching her grandchildren grow, welcoming great-grandchildren, and tending the flowers she had planted decades ago. On quiet evenings, Emma would sit on the porch in the spot where she and Cole had spent so many hours together. She would watch the sunset paint the desert in familiar colors and feel Cole's presence beside her, as real as it had been when he was alive. Emma Rose Brennan lived to be 83 years old, passing peacefully in her sleep in the spring of 1925. She was buried beside Cole in the small family cemetery they had established on the ranch, their graves marked with simple headstones that bore their names, dates, and a single inscription that Thomas had chosen: "Together forever." Their love story became part of the family lore, passed down through generations. Great-grandchildren who had never known them heard about the cowboy who found a dying woman in the desert and chose to save her, about the woman who had lost everything and found the courage to love again, about two people who built a life and a legacy from nothing but determination, hope, and love. The ranch continued to prosper under the management of their descendants. The house was expanded and modernized over the years, but the original structure remained, a testament to the vision and hard work of Emma and Cole Brennan. The canyon where Cole had first taken Emma became known in the family as Emma's Canyon, and generations of Brennan children played beside the same stream where their great-great-grandparents had shared their hopes and dreams. And on quiet evenings, when the desert sun set in shades of gold and crimson, and the stars began to appear in the vast Arizona sky, those who were attuned to such things could almost hear the echo of Emma's whispered words carried on the wind. "I have nothing to offer you. And Cole's response, strong and sure and eternal, "You are offering me everything." Their story was one of loss transformed into hope, of despair giving way to joy, of two broken people finding wholeness in each other. It was a testament to the healing power of love, to the courage required to risk your heart again after it has been shattered, to the beauty that can grow in even the harshest landscape if tended with patience and devotion. Emma and Cole's descendants continued to thrive in Arizona, spreading across the state and beyond, carrying with them the values their ancestors had embodied: hard work, loyalty, compassion, and above all, the willingness to offer everything you have to the person you love, even when it feels like you have nothing to give. The old ranch house stood for over a century, weathering storms and droughts and the passage of time, much like the love that had created it. And though Emma and Cole were long gone, their presence lingered in every board and nail, in every flower that bloomed in Emma's garden, in every sunset viewed from their beloved porch. Their story proved that even in the harsh wilderness of the Wild West, in a time of violence and uncertainty and hardship, love could flourish. It could take root in the most unlikely circumstances, between two broken souls who found each other at exactly the right moment. It could grow and deepen and sustain, creating ripples that extended far beyond the original couple, touching and transforming countless lives across generations. In the end, that was the true legacy of Emma and Cole Brennan. Not the ranch they built, not the children they raised, but the example they set of what love could be when two people committed to it completely, when they chose each other every day despite the challenges, when they recognized that sometimes the greatest gifts come not in the form of wealth or status or possessions, but in the form of a heart offered freely, completely, and without reservation. Emma had thought she had nothing to offer, and in terms of material wealth, she had been right. But she had offered Cole something far more valuable: herself, her love, her willingness to trust again, her courage to hope again, her determination to build a future even after her past had been destroyed. And Cole, in his wisdom and his love, had recognized that for the precious gift it was. Their story reminded all who heard it that we are never as empty-handed as we think we are, that even in our brokenness, we have something to offer, that love sees value where others see only lack, that the greatest treasures in life are not things we possess, but the connections we forge, the love we share, the lives we touch. And so the legacy of Emma and Cole Brennan endured, a love story for the ages, a testament to hope and healing and the transformative power of two simple statements that contained all the truth and beauty of their shared life. "I have nothing to offer you," she had whispered in fear and shame. "You are offering me everything," he had replied in love and truth, and he had been right. She had offered him everything that mattered: her heart, her loyalty, her love, her strength, her determination, her willingness to build a life together from nothing but hope and hard work. And in return, he had offered her the same, creating between them a love that lasted a lifetime and a legacy that endured for generations. Their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren carried that legacy forward, each generation adding their own chapter to the story while honoring the foundation Emma and Cole had laid. The Brennan Ranch became known throughout Arizona as a place of integrity and hospitality, where family came first and love was the highest value. And every year, on the anniversary of Emma and Cole's wedding, the family would gather at the old ranch house. They would share a meal, tell stories about their ancestors, and raise a toast to the cowboy and the widow who had found each other in the desert and built a dynasty on nothing but love. "To Emma and Cole," they would say, glasses raised high, "who taught us that love is the greatest gift we can offer, and that sometimes, when we think we have nothing, we actually have everything." And in that moment, if you listened carefully, you might hear the whisper of the desert wind carrying with it the echo of a promise kept, a love fulfilled, a life well lived. You might sense the presence of two souls, forever intertwined, watching over the legacy they had created with satisfaction and joy. For Emma and Cole Brennan had done more than survive the harsh realities of the Wild West. They had thrived. They had loved. They had built something beautiful and lasting from tragedy and loss. They had proven that even in the darkest moments, hope remains. That even when we think we have nothing to offer, we possess everything that truly matters. The capacity to love, the courage to try again, the strength to build a future despite the pain of the past. Their story was complete, their circle closed, their love eternal. And in the red rock canyons of Arizona, beneath the endless sky that had witnessed their first meeting and their last goodbye, their memory lived on, a testament to the enduring power of love to transform, to heal, to create something magnificent from the ashes of despair. Emma and Cole Brennan had found each other against all odds, had loved each other through all challenges, and had created a legacy that would outlive them by generations. And that, in the end, was everything.